Oh, did you connect?
No. Bing. Connecting. Active.
It says connected already.
Now it says active.
All right, so you should hear your dial tone. Ooh, it's like we're on a radio show.
Yeah.
Hoi hoi.
Hey, buddy. What's going on?
Bobbing and weaving.
Yay.
Okay, we're all here. It's like we're on a radio show. You got the perfect caller voice.
I'll manage my low end and accentuate the mids.
Arizona is a wildly beautiful place, brimming with over 100 brewing companies. I'm Rob Fulmer, the Executive Director of the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild. I'm joined by Deputy Director Andrew Bauman. Together we cover the state, bringing you the best of what's happening at our breweries and beyond. Welcome to Arizona Beer Frontier.
Okay. So for the record, can we actually talk about your condition? I mean,
sure. I don't think it's going to be a HIPAA violation if I just tell you. So I think we're
Yeah.
No, I know, but I always got to ask. Like,
I made you a friendship bracelet
Oh, buddy.
that says crew with blue and yellow beads.
Oh man. Well, I'll
all right.
I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. So like when I come back through, for sure.
right. Yeah. So we were in the middle of our pod and like we started getting your texts and I just said, oh yeah, there was a scheduling problem. I didn't know what to. And I'm like, oh, he's got COVID. Yeah, stay away from him. He's probably gonna go work tomorrow. He's probably gonna cough on a bunch of people. So.
But yeah.
So can you give us the rundown on what brings you to Arizona?
So excuse me. Feel free to. I don't know if this is live or whatever, but feel free to edit out all my little coughs and throat clears if you need to.
It adds flavor. We like it.
Yeah.
It's an authenticity aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
We at the Ohio Craft Brewers Association, we have a sabbatical policy for employees who've worked at least 5 years. So you can get out and go clear your head, recharge your batteries, and then get back to work. With some focus and
Mission accomplished, man.
yeah, I'm working on it.
Bet you feel recharged and ready to go.
I'm about halfway through, and if it weren't for this, I'd say I'm in a really good spot. But so I started my sabbatical on June 29th, I believe, or June 28th, and it runs through Labor Day, and I'm on a mission to visit all 30 major league ballparks in the course of one season, which is just a little bit Cocoa Puffs, but
That's amazing.
but this is something I wanted to do at some point in my life anyway. I just wasn't expecting to do it all in 1 year, so I'll just knock it out now that I have the opportunity.
Oakland to Florida sounds like that's where I was like, yeah, that's a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I gave myself a week to do it, and now with COVID kind of throwing a wrench in the works, I have to. It'll actually be a little bit tougher because I'm going to have to make up 2 games in San Diego and here for the Diamondbacks on my way across, which just makes for a couple of longer driving days. But I like a long drive. If the point of this whole thing is to like clear your head, man, driving through a whole lot of nothing for 8 hours really will do that for you. It's been pretty therapeutic on the way out here, and I imagine on the way back it'll be pretty good too.
Right. So where you are currently in Phoenix?
Yes.
You're in a safe spot. You're staying with friends, or
I'm in a hotel 3 blocks from Chase Field.
Can you just run over there and like touch it, and does that count?
No, I have to see the game. That's those are the
Okay.
rules that I set
All
for
right.
myself. So,
Cool.
but yeah,
Uh-huh.
I
The whole
can
game?
See it, I can see it from the parking lot. I just can't.
Yeah.
I just can't go inside today.
Do you need anything? Can we drop off things for you, or you have that covered, or
Uh,
you had a friend who was here for part of it, and now you're what?
Yeah.
Stranded?
No. My friend's here with me. He's also been exposed to COVID, but is not showing any symptoms. So knock on wood, he'll be okay. I'm just the lucky one with the poor immune system, as it turns out. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's it is what it is. I feel fine. I'm taking some sinus medicine and kicking back, taking a little relaxation. I mean, we just spent the last 3 days driving from, I gotta get this right, from Dallas to Phoenix via Houston and Midland and Albuquerque. Maybe 4 days. I don't know. You lose track of
So
time
why
out
did
there,
you
but
bring
it's
why did you
just
bring the
awful.
COVID? Why did you bring the COVID from Dallas?
yeah. Why would you do that
What's
to
up with
us?
that? Why would you do that to us?
Well, there's you haven't set up border patrols yet to keep it out. So I mean, it's only a matter of
Right.
time, right?
yeah, no.
Build the wall with Texas.
Yeah.
Between Texas and Arizona, we should have
I know.
a wall.
I think we're completely discounting the entire state of New Mexico as
yeah.
Right.
being.
Right. I mean, it's Arizona. It's just Eastern Arizona. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
New
tell
Mexico.
me what stadiums you've already gone to.
This is at the risk of it sounding like a Johnny Cash song. I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah.
I started early in the season. Hit some of the ones close to home from Ohio. Went to Cincinnati and Detroit in the first couple of weeks of the season. I flew to Colorado and Seattle over the course of a weekend, which is also a little Cocoa Puffs. And then, after that, I did a Memorial Day road trip to Pittsburgh and to New York to see the Mets play. Went to Cleveland, and then when my sabbatical started for real, I went to Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Toronto, St. Louis, Chicago for the White Sox, Milwaukee for the Brewers, back to Chicago for the Cubs, Minnesota, Kansas City, Texas, Houston, and now I'm in Phoenix with COVID. So I've got like
So
Wow.
you're like
go, I think.
18 or 19.
Yeah.
You got like 18 or 19 so far.
Yep.
I'm just and I'm looking at your Bleachers and Bleed Substack. What is the bleeds part?
Nosebleeds. So like real high seats.
Nosebleed.
Yep.
So you were looking to get COVID, is what you're saying? Nosebleeds.
You went to Canada? That's not even in America.
That's news to a lot of people, but yes.
That's amazing.
I got my passport renewed before I started this trip because I knew I was going to have to go to Toronto, and Toronto's great. Like it was a really fun trip. I was there for like most of these places. I'm there for like a day and then I leave. But got to ride some public transit, which is nice. We don't have that where I'm from. Got to see the Blue Jays play. They opened the roof. You can see CN Tower. It was beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah, got some game sausages, and it was a good time.
I love it.
Tell us about beers of note. Do you have? Well, first of all, do you drink a beer at every game, and also do you have to see the entire game?
I do have to see the entire game, and I do make it a point to try and drink something local at every park. Sometimes that's easier said than done. Actually, in Toronto, because as listeners of this podcast probably know, the 3-tier system in America, is supposed to prevent slotting fees and pay to play and all that. They don't have that in Canada. So literally everything up there is an Anheuser-Busch InBev product, including the so-called local craft beer, which the name of which is escaping me, but it's definitely an AB-owned brewery up there in Toronto, and that is it. That is all you can get in the stadium there. So if there was a downside, that was it. But for the most part, a lot of the other parks do a decent job of getting some local stuff in there.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I haven't been to a game in a while, and I couldn't even tell you what I would expect from breweries here.
I can tell you exactly what I'd expect. Church music will be there. It'll be
great.
everywhere.
There you go. That would be the one.
And there's the Four Peaks Lounge.
Yeah, well, sometimes they have other beers in there, but
Yeah.
that's all one distributor. So
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
I like I said, we've been to spring training games and other games, but I just haven't been in the actual for a Major League Baseball game.
Yeah.
It would be less expensive than spring training, though. I can tell you.
Probably. Yeah.
So what about out in the field, outside of the ballpark? Is there anything that jumped out at you that was? I'm sure a lot of a part of traveling is the unexpected, right? So what was something like, oh, I had no idea. This is so cool. Anything like that?
I was in St. Louis, and there was the game that I was going to go to that I had tickets for, or a ticket for. I was by myself at the time. Got rained out. Remnants of Hurricane Beryl that had come through St. Louis. They rescheduled it for the next afternoon. So the day of the game that I bought tickets for, I had time to kill. I was just kind of, floating around looking for things to do inside that I could stay dry. And they have in St. Louis, at Laclede's Landing, possibly the worst / best wax museum that I've ever seen. It's it's so poorly lit. All of the figurines or all the figures are like pretty poor representations of the people they're supposed to be. Like one of the very first ones up there is like Madame Tussauds. Like she looks almost like the mother from Psycho. It's just really bad. And like flickering lights and like displays that don't work. A couple of the figures had like fallen over and nobody came to pick them up.
Oh my God.
But it was like, it was $10 to go through it. It's like 5 levels. And it was just like so campy and terrible, but also great. I had a great time at that. Like that was an excellent way to waste 45 minutes on a rain out day. And then when I did go to the game the next day, it turns out that our friend Paul Liani from New York was there with his family. They were on vacation, and they were going to the game that day. So like we got to hang out together for a little while during the game and catch up a little bit. I haven't seen Paul in forever, so yeah, it was nice to see some of our our industry friends out and about, and in a place that I never would have expected to run into them. So that was really nice.
Groovy. Yeah.
Wow. We didn't get to see you at things that we normally would because you were planning this trip, and you're obviously not going to go to Madison. That's correct, yes?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, I'll be when you're in Madison, I will be in the Bay Area. So don't shed any tears for me or anything.
Right. Hey, if you get a chance, because I was in that area, but honestly, like even though on the map it looks like it was close, I was still like an hour and a half away from San Francisco and Oakland. But if you there's a Korean brewery and they serve a kimchi sour.
Ooh.
So if you can get anywhere near, well, you'll be in Oakland, so I'm sure you could probably find it. That would be something. That's my recommendation. Try to
Oakland?
find that beer. Yes, it's an Oakland-based brewery, for sure.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we're staying in Berkeley.
I think it's Doke beer.
I'm sorry, what is it
Oh
called?
yeah, you can get it in Berkeley. You can get it in Doke beer, DOEKK AEBIER or something like that.
I'll find it for sure.
Yeah, it's kimchi sour. They serve other Asian-inspired beers, but they won the World Beer Cup or a GABF medal recently. Yeah, they have it in Berkeley because that was closer. I'm like, it's an hour and a half on some windy ass roads, and I would that's a deviation from the trip that I was with other people. They probably would not have liked it if I did that. So, so I thought you were here like a week ago for some reason, but that's not uncommon. I put things in my calendar the wrong day all the time. So this was the original plan to be here in Phoenix.
Yeah. Tonight's game was the one that I was planning on hitting. So, but luckily
Okay.
for me, the homestands work out to where when I'm on my way back east from California, like I can make up that Padres game that I'm going to miss tomorrow, and I can make up the Diamondbacks game that I'm going to miss tonight.
Okay, so you have your itinerary already planned out. Is this the first? This is obviously the most major, I would expect, deviation from your plan. But
there was a St. Louis deviation. Did you have power when you were in Houston, or?
Yeah. Actually, you know what? This is going back to things that were off the beaten path. We actually didn't stay in Houston. Like we drove down from Dallas. Where my cousins live. That's the post I have to write today for the blog. And then we went to Houston. We went to the Astros game that night. We stopped at St. Arnold beforehand, which is great. And then we drove straight from the game to Lexington, Texas, to get in line for Snow's barbecue at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like I feel like I'm only telling the stories of like me being a little bit like off the rails, but like this was a bucket list thing for me. I've been wanting to do this for years. They're only open on Saturdays, and they open at 8 a.m. and you pretty much have to be in line no later than like 5:30 to make sure that you like get all the meat you want. We just happened to get there at 1, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to set up my camp chair. We were 10th and 11th in line at 1 a.m. And then
wow,
I slept in my camp chair for a couple hours, and then woke up, had a canned coffee, had a couple of canned beers because you're in line for a barbecue. That's kind of how you do it. And then they opened the doors a little bit before 8. We were out of there by probably 8:30 at the latest, and on our way to Midland. But yeah,
and you had the most amazing barbecue ever.
Snow's is it was rated by Texas Monthly at one point as the #1 barbecue in Texas. The pitmaster there, one of the pitmasters there, is Tootsie Tominetz. She's 89 years old. She's been cooking barbecue for her entire adult life, and they recruited her to come and cook there, and she's been doing it there for I think 30 something years. She's the queen of Texas barbecue. Like it's unreal. And like the younger guys are doing a little bit more of the heavy lifting right now, but like what Tootsie says goes. Like if she doesn't like it, like if it's not ready yet, Tootsie says it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. So that's just how that rolls. And people like there were, I think by the time they opened doors, there were several hundred people in line, and I'm sure some of the people at the back, couldn't get brisket or ribs or pork steak or whatever. They just would have been gone by the time there. But waiting in the line is part of the experience. It's not. I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting there at 1, but if you show up between 4 and 5, you're in real good shape.
I don't think I've ever waited overnight in a line. I always wondered, like, what do you do? Do you bring extra things? I mean, do you have a Game Boy or something? Or what do you do?
Well, for me, it was just camp chairs and my phone and a little bit of sleep time and a little cooler next to me. I think I had a nightcap when we got there. Fell asleep in the chair, and then time traveled a couple hours, and but before I knew it was 4 a.m. That is, hey, just go from there.
I saw a show on Food Network about Snow barbecue.
Oh yeah,
I've never heard of it.
And Tootsie, yeah, her
never heard of it.
husband had like a butcher shop / grocery, and when he passed away, she continued on with the smoking and
yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I don't follow, barbecue, and I don't watch enough Food Network, I guess. But I heard of Blacks, right? That had its moment. Mm-hmm. Did they just give out these awards like 3 or 4 times a year? Or
I think Texas Monthly does a roundup every year, and they let everybody just
or every month.
Yeah, it could be every month. Who knows? But yeah, it was quite the treat. The reason I guess the reason they're only open on Saturdays. This is wild. The reason they're only open on Saturdays is because Lexington, Texas probably still has a cattle auction on Saturday mornings and afternoons. So they started opening the barbecue so that people would have, you know, something to eat before they went to the cattle auction. And they didn't feel the need to ever open any other time because Lexington's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. There's really not much of a reason for them to be open more than a day a week. When we got there at 1 o'clock in the morning, we could hear the cows mooing from the stockyard down the street for the, I assume for the impending auction, which is that adds like an extra level of like, this is as authentic as it gets. Like, it's like
Right,
they're literally like selling cattle right down there, and they're cooking them right down here. So.
Yeah,
Man, if I lived that life, I'd have to have like a pick me up around 1:30, 2 o'clock, just an injection of caffeine. They should open a giant coffee roaster next door. Like you go there 8 in the morning, get a big thing, listen to somebody auction off cattle. Like that would put me to sleep in a nice way.
and then there'd be some music.
So how often are you able to get back home base?
The last time I was at home was July 8th, I believe, is when I left for St. Louis. So it's been almost a full month that I've not been back to my own home, and I won't be back until August 23rd, I believe, is when I land in
Do you think
that is a trip?
Yeah.
Do you think all your stuff is going to be on the curb? And
I doubt it. My wife was very encouraging of me to take this trip. Just from a mental health standpoint, like this is a therapy, really. To be able to take this much time away from work and away from the stresses of everything and just unplug. Like I haven't checked my email since I left in late June. Like I put on my auto response. I'm leaving it to the amazing staff of the Ohio Craft Brewers Association to cover for me for 2 months. And when I get back, I'll turn the autoresponder back off and get caught up again. But it's a little wild not being home. I'm kind of an adult homebody as it is, but like this is an absolute change of lifestyle. My friend Scott that I'm traveling with here was like the other day. He said this is basically like a weird version of summer camp where like you have to get all your toiletries and go down to the shower and like pack up all your things and make your bunk neat and whatever, except for like we're not in the same bunk for 3 weeks. We're moving from town to town. It does have a weird like kind of hello mutta hello fada kind of vibe to it.
Do you have a camp song? I mean, you've heard "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" more times than I probably have in my whole life in just a couple months. So.
Oh yeah, no, it gets played a lot, and once a game at least. But yeah, that generally doesn't make it into the car with us. I don't know if we picked up any songs or anything along the way. But I mean, we definitely have a few callback jokes that are getting some run, but it's and Scott is an old friend of mine. We've been friends for lordy 25 years, something like that, maybe longer, like since freshman sophomore year of college, which wow, okay, yeah, I just put a date on it. All right. So this is great. Like we get along great, and it's if anybody else had asked me to ride along, I might have been like, I don't know. It's like maybe I can make you pass a test or something, but like I lived with this dude for years already, so like it's fine, we're good.
Yeah,
cool.
It is gameplay. I mean, is following the game, like, is it actually part of it that important? Are you following? I mean, I don't know what your team is, but are you pulling it to? Is it the Brewers? Like Andrew was looking at me like, it's the Brewers. Are you?
I did a blog post early on where I kind of explained that like my baseball fandom is a little polyamorous. So I grew up as a actually very early on. I grew up as a Mets fan because they won the '86 World Series, which was around the time I started like actually realizing that baseball was a thing, and that it was something that interested me. And then growing up in Toledo, I kind of became a Tigers fan because the early '90s Tigers were really fun to watch, even though they didn't win very much. Just all or nothing swingers, Cecil Fielder, Mickey Tettleton, Rob Deere, guys who were, when they went up to the plate, you knew they were either going to hit a home run, strike out, or walk. Very rarely were they going to hit a routine ground ball or or a single or something like that. Something boring like that. But and their pitching was terrible, which is why they didn't win. And then I kind of stuck with the Tigers for a few years, through college and everything. And then like as I got like more and more into the game and like into fantasy baseball a little bit, like I just kind of like I started to appreciate a lot of other teams and players. And then my wife and we always go up to Door County, Door County, Wisconsin, for vacation every summer. So I kind of adopted the Brewers as a team when we started doing that. That was about 15 years ago. So yeah, I've got a few teams that I have a little bit more allegiance to, but for the most part, like if I'm going to like tonight, the Diamondbacks and the Nationals, like I'm probably just gonna root for the home team. Most of the time, if I don't have a strong rooting interest one way or the other. I did bring like a dozen baseball caps with me, which is also a little ridiculous. Just if I have somebody's hat, I'm gonna wear it to their ballpark. And if I don't have the hat of the place I'm going, I'll just wear something inconspicuous. Like I just picked up this. I'm wearing a hat I got in Albuquerque that's a barrel roaster of green chilies with flames coming out of the bottom of it that I bought in their team store, which is great. Like this might just end up being my everyday hat because it's pretty on brand for me.
Nice.
Right on.
Love
right
it.
on. That was the in Albuquerque, the Isotopes or whatever?
Yeah, the Isotopes.
Minor league team?
Yep.
Yeah. You catch any minor league games or just
Yeah, I mean I went to one in Toledo
visits?
after the Tigers game back in April, and then went to one in Midland a couple nights ago. A buddy of mine who actually lives in Phoenix he travels around for a concessionaire that he works for. Sorry, that I know he would hate the term concessionaire, but he's currently the food and beverage manager in Midland through the end of the season. And he's been bouncing around from park to park for a little while. So I got to catch up with him, which was great. And then Albuquerque, maybe the most fun non-major league experience that I've had on this whole trip. When I was in Door County on vacation, there's the Door County Baseball League, and it's literally just like 8 teams of like either locals who used to play baseball in high school and just do this thing for fun on Sundays, or like seasonal bar help, like come up to work, enjoying like the local baseball club. And like they play against each other every Sunday from basically like I want to say like Memorial Day to Labor Day, and it's 9 innings, it's wood bats, it's all amateur, nobody gets paid. It's $5 to get in. They sell cheap cans of beer from the concession stand. It's just such a great kind of throwback experience to like when every little town or every factory or whoever had like their own baseball team. And people would just, go and, just enjoy it. Like it didn't have to be the best of the best. It wasn't, it wasn't a high quality of play, but it was, it was really, really fun to just watch a bunch of regular people, just having a good time playing the game.
Yeah, I have to see, like we were traveling sometime and we just never made it out, but there's been, I mean, I'm sure it's in several places where they have baseball reenactors playing by 1899 rules and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you've already checked Chicago off your list, but they have that they have their own version of softball there with a giant ball I can't remember what it is.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I can't remember what it is either.
Nobody wears a glove. It's very Chicago thing. I'm sure you could catch a beer and a brat there for practically nothing too.
Yeah.
So did you have any kind of view? I mean, just as a planning aspect, I mean, tell me a little bit about that. Are you like at the top level of Hilton or some other thing, or are you just kind of like stringing these together? Do you look for places near the ballpark? You have a car? Do you look for a brewery? What's your theory on travel here?
Well, I'm doing 20 to 30 of them in my Mazda 3. Very fuel efficient, just big enough to hold everything that we need. And driving basically almost all of it. I think it ends up being like 17,000 miles or something like that. It had 2 oil changes already on the trip. I'll probably have to have a third one before Labor Day. But for the most part, I either look for, I use hotels.com a fair amount. Get my one key cache through hotels.com. At some point, I'm probably just going to end up with a free room, probably sometime soon. I would imagine the way it's racking up. Airbnb sometimes. If I'm going to be somewhere for more than a day. Usually I'll try and find either a place close to the park where I can walk or take public transit. Sometimes that's easier said than done. Like in Toronto, I stayed really far out. Like I was in I don't know how your Canadian geography is, but I was in Vaughan, which is probably about 30 or so miles, maybe like 20 outside of Toronto. But they have like great public transit, and I found a place that was right next to a train line, and just got on the train, paid $5 Canadian to take the train down, and then I think another $5 to go back. But yeah, I mean it was easy, painless. The places that have good public transit really help, because I abhor paying for parking near a ballpark. It's just so exorbitant.
It's the worst.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If I can pay $2 to $5 for public transit versus 40 to 50 to park in a lot where I still have to walk 10-15 minutes to the park, like there's some places where you can't avoid it. Milwaukee, Texas, they're the plate, or the Philadelphia to an extent. Like all the ballparks are just away from everything, and they're just surrounded by giant parking lots. There's no good transit that serves it. Philly has transit that serves it, but it's most people just drive to it. Generally that's how I'm doing it. I'll try and I will generally try and find a brewery in each town, to check out if I have time to do it, or grab some carry out from the the local bottle shop or the supermarket or something like that. I've got a 53 quart cooler in the trunk of the car, so I'm able to roll with some light lunches and some beers in the back.
It's where you vacuum sealed all the barbecue for us, right? It's still there, right?
It's still in the cooler.
Yeah,
I would like to get a bunch to go.
I did order at Snow's. I think I got like $150 worth of barbecue, and we ate a lot of it there. And I delivered some to my friend in Midland, and I'm pretty sure that we finished off the rest of it a couple days ago. But yeah, I wasn't intending to take that much leftover barbecue with me, but it is what it is. When you're at a place that's renowned for being the best of the best, at some point it's like, put it on the credit card. I'll deal with it later.
Right.
Just indulge.
So is there advice that you would have for someone trying to put together this kind of trip? Or I don't know, like I know people do this, they follow the Dead, or they were following Dead and Company or whatever, or Fish. Probably similar. I don't know what else you could do. If anyone who's trying to do the Great American Road Trip, what is something that you wish you would have known, or Any just general advice?
If you are to do a thing where you're staying in a lot of cities, like I am, and you are going to rely on public transit, be double, triple, quadruple sure that you know what the services are and what the schedule is. I did after our game in Minnesota. I was banking on taking a train back to our hotel was in Bloomington near the airport in the Mall of America. We were banking on taking a train back. We went out for beers at my insistence after the game and missed the last train back. So ended up with like a $40-something Uber out to the airport in around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So that's one that I learned and took to heart on this. I mean, really, I think the biggest thing is making a plan that at least seems reasonable and building in some time to make adjustments as necessary. That's exactly what I had to do in St. Louis when the game got rained out. I shuffled a couple games around so that I could hit the rescheduled game the next day. And it's what I'm going to be doing because I ended up with COVID today. So yeah, just. And this is actually, this is something that I, like I said, is mental health therapy, time off, unplug. One thing that I was having a lot of trouble with, in a state of burnout and anxiety disorder and things like that. If something like this had happened before I had started going to therapy, taking some drugs for my anxiety. If something like this had happened before I took any of those steps to take care of myself, I would have lost my mind. Like I would have just spiraled down. Oh, I can't believe this is happening to me. This is so stupid. Like, why was I so stupid to think that I could even do this or even pull this off? It's like, it's not a big deal, dude. You have to, you just have to have your priorities straight. You have to be in a good headspace to be able to deal with little wrinkles like this that ultimately aren't that big a deal. It's like I'm out $50 for the San Diego game tomorrow. Like, big deal. Who cares? Ultimately, everything's going to work out. And I just
Sure.
a year ago, I personally wouldn't have been able to wrap my head around the idea that it would be okay. So,
hey, well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll just ask another question related to that. I mean, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
And obviously we can. So is this part of the therapy? Is this part? I mean, you mentioned it kind of was, but do these things go hand in hand? Like, hey, I recognize that I have this anxiety and I need to take care of this. And is this like a test? Is this, or is this the reward? Or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's the sabbatical was going to happen no matter what. Basically, Mary, our executive director, came back from her sabbatical 2 years ago and was like, listen, everybody's got to do this. and strong-armed our board into setting up a policy for all of our employees. We're now 3 strong. So, but yeah, this was going to happen no matter what. I mean, Mary pegged me for burnout before I did. Like I didn't recognize it. I didn't know it was actually happening to me. And of course, she recognized it immediately and was like, you're going to go do this. Like, this is what I can do to help you. And then, all the other stuff is just, that's me coming to the realization that I wasn't doing well and I needed to, I needed to be, active in my own self-care and my own well-being. So, yeah, the trip itself isn't necessarily like my therapist or my psychologist or whatever, didn't say hey, you need to go take 2 months off. Like that was already in the books when I started therapy. But but there is there's a therapeutic aspect to taking a trip like this and getting away from from all the stress for a little while. Like I'm fully expecting when I get back after Labor Day that I'm going to be reinvigorated and have a different perspective on what's important and what's not, and like the things that used to drive me up the wall. Like I'm going to figure out how to deal with them rather than just let them cook my brain. So yeah, I mean it's not like the sabbatical is not technically therapy, but it's it works as such. It's definitely been helpful. Like I feel so much better. Obviously, like I miss being home a little bit, but other than that, like I'm having a really great time, and I feel different after just a month of this, like to the point where I'm like, oh man, I got another month of this. Like I got, like I hope that the second month is as good as the first month, because this is this is pretty great.
Right, and this seems to be like a linchpin. Like, yeah, I mean, you're not going to get COVID before again, so
right.
before it's over. So, like, this is this is the fulcrum of the teeter totter here.
Yeah.
But I mean, the things that you said is like you recognize things now that you wouldn't have, and you are chalking them up as wins, and you're using that for something else instead of just bearing it down or however it manifests before. So like, just brushing off my psych degree, I guess. I thought if you said, hey, this is the answer, I'm like, yeah, I'll start a practice. Say, yeah, go on a baseball tour.
Rob's like, I only go to minor league teams, though.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
And only on their special weekends.
Well, cool. Did you go out of your way to see any baseball related breweries or beers, or is that just not even a thing?
No, it's definitely a thing. There are a couple of baseball related breweries. I didn't go out of my way to find them, but like a lot of breweries in towns with strong baseball culture, they'll tag on to that. Like I think I was at Sea Pine in Seattle when I was killing a little time before the game started. Great little brewery, just like a mile and a half south of the ballpark. They had literally just won something at World Beer Cup like the night before I visited. They did not have that on draft though, which was kind of a bummer. But everything was great. They had a couple of baseball themed beers. They had a little sticker with a little sticker with their logo on it on top of a baseball, which of course I picked up. But yeah, and when you go to the ballparks, some of the bigger breweries that are the bigger craft breweries that are in the park will occasionally have like a tie-in beer, and I've been kind of keeping an eye out for those, so I can pick one of those up. I've been keeping a running tally on my Instagram account. It's in my highlights. It's count them up. Where I'm holding a beer at each ballpark, and I mostly have been able to find some local craft to feature there. But yeah, especially if there's one that's baseball themed, I'll pick that up.
Cool.
Nice. I'm just I'm gonna share some of your photos if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, of course.
For our YouTube point. I saw you went to Hot Dogs.
Yes.
Looks like they're using the Ramones logo. That looks like awesome.
Yeah, Hot Dogs is a longtime favorite of mine. I have waited in line at that place so many times. One of the finest experiences of my life, food wise, was the day that I didn't have to wait in line there. I showed up on like a Wednesday or Thursday morning or something, and they had just opened the doors, and I was able to just like walk in, and there were maybe 5 people ahead of me, which was awesome. Yeah, Doug Sohn's kind of a hero, making gourmet food at affordable prices and handheld in the tradition of Chicago. There's There are no finer words in the English language than encased meats, my friend, as the saying goes. But yeah, it was I had been going there for years and years. Basically, anytime I visited Chicago, when it closed, like I was crushing. And then they opened the stand in Wrigley Field that you need to have a bleacher ticket to go to. So you are definitely paying the premium to get hot dogs, and it's good. It's not as good as it was, obviously. Like nothing's ever as good as it was, right? Especially when you hand it over from him being in charge of it every day to whoever the food and beverage company is that they hire at Wrigley Field. It was good, but it wasn't it wasn't what I remember. But it was worth it for the experience and for the story. I mean, I don't know how many times on this trip I've been like, I probably wouldn't have done this, but I'm doing it for the story. Like this.
Worth it for the story, sure.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, listen, I you've been doing a lot of talking, and it's probably like not the greatest for your
you should probably take a nap.
your respiratory system and all other stuff. And there you go, man. That's the authenticity we need. So we're gonna just a couple things though. You have a Substack. It's called Bleachers and Bleeds. I think if you just type that into Google, you'll find it. You have an Instagram that do you want to share or no?
Yeah, that's also Bleachers and Bleeds. Just all one word, Bleachers and Bleeds. Try to keep it simple.
Right.
Cool.
Right. And you're going to be back through in August?
Yeah, I think right now I'm depending on how tomorrow goes. I'm assuming I'm not going to make it to the Padres game tomorrow. If that's the case, then I will be back in Phoenix on Tuesday, August 13th, to see the Diamondbacks take on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah, because as it was, you were coming back, and I was like, you want to go back to Flag? I would have to drive up to Flagstaff, which is not a big deal because like it's still hot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed.
I did.
But if you're not going to Flagstaff, you don't have to pay for a hotel. You could either stay with Andrew or myself, or
No, you guys are the best.
So that'll save you a little bit of money.
My kids moved out, so
Yeah, we've and we're close enough. And we have a light rail too. If you really want to get on the light rail, you can.
yeah. You can take light rail. You can ride one of Rob's bikes to the light rail station.
It'll still be hot.
It's okay though, because it's not that far. And then get on the light rail with the bike.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll be back from Medicine. We'll let you get some rest, and I think this could be its own little separate. We were gonna see how long you were gonna talk and add it to our other episode, but I think we'll just make this its own episode.
Yeah, you've got a lot of strength in you for someone who's got the Rona.
Yeah.
Well, I've beat this damn thing 3 times already, so just bring on the 4th.
Amen. 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 All right. Well, thank you so much. Sorry we can't go to the game tonight, but
yeah,
you can't go. Maybe Andrew and I'll just go. We'll just tell you all about it.
Yeah.
We're not.
That's not happening then. Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a great trip up to Oakland and San Francisco and back down around and everywhere you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.